Welcome to Visualize, the podcast where collaboration fuels change. I'm your host, Chris Baker, and each week we'll explore incredible connections between nonprofits, businesses, and the community. This is a space where we highlight inspiring partnerships, uncover strategies for creating meaningful impact, and share stories that show how working together can make all the difference. Whether you're a nonprofit leader, a business owner, or someone just passionate about building connections, this podcast is for you. Welcome back to Visualize. Today I have Katuska Sierra from Funding Arts Broward. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We have gotten to know each other fairly well over the last year. We're neighbors within the Art Serve building, which is fantastic. What has been your journey as a director of operations for Funding Arts Broward?
My journey with them, my journey began with them about 6 years ago, maybe, give or take a few months. And when I came to them and when we found each other, so to speak, it was a perfect collaboration, it was a perfect union. So they were looking to expand and grow out this membership-based organization that was only led and directed and completely organized and run by volunteers. And they were handling all of the grant programming, a few events, and doing some other things. It was pretty substantial for the size of the organization at the time. And, they switched leadership, and this particular set of leaders decided that they wanted to build a foundation of infrastructure that added staff. So, when I came to them, they were really underfed. If you would say, like, from a business perspective, they were kind of stealth. They primarily focused on a very secular group, and it was kind of kept to themselves. And that way, it wasn't really a lot of access in the community outside of this particular group. So, one of the initiatives was to be able to grow this thing out and create a lot more visibility and traction in the community for folks to be able to access it from different walks of life.
Sure.
And that's something that we still work towards creating today.
What actually does FAB do? How do they help the community? Obviously, you help them, the artists here in the local area. But how do they do that?
First and foremost, we have to thank our founder, Francie Bishop Good. Is a visual artist and a philanthropist. And she saw the need after some budget cuts that happened in 2003 for a group to get together and provide some supplemental grant funding. So what FAB does, our primary area of focus is providing performance grants in the visual category, in the performing category, and also in arts education. And that's what we did for the majority of FAB's history. Over the last 2 or 3 years, we have expanded. So today we have now Arts Access Award type of grants where we're going into Broward County schools via arts and culture organizations in Broward and expanding their current programming so that we can have it over a multi-year cycle. So that's something that's really big for us. And that's something that we've worked really hard to make happen. And we're really super proud of that.
When did that initiative start?
So that just launched over the fall of 24.
Oh, so really recent.
I mean, this is so green and so new for us, and something that we really look forward to expanding on in the future. Our focus around arts education is specifically in the underserved communities, which is so important.
Yes.
I think we take for granted the things that we can access as community members, and art is a basic right, as far as I'm concerned. It's an essential need and a basic right, and children specifically should have it as they're in their processes and stages of development, because it does help them become strategic and creative thinkers, and it helps them really get to know themselves and what feelings are like, and arts create a reaction, and it helps you kind of understand how you're showing up in the world and where you're at, and maybe where you're at internally. And sometimes it's hard to access those places without a tool. And I think art is a great tool to get there.
It's an amazing tool. Like, the space that we're in right now wouldn't actually be even here without artists.
That's right.
Everything that we use, this table is art. This microphone is art. Like, these lights, the trees that are behind us, everything that we have touched and we come in contact with is a part of art. So it's essential. And so making sure that, like you said, our youth have access to that, because how are they going to expand their minds? How are they going to help become the future leaders that we need them to do if they're not thinking outside the box?
Well, I think, and and you just brought up a really, really important fact that we're looking at these young folks, and maybe we're not thinking so far ahead or outside of our own singular perspective, but these young folks, they're going to be leading our country,
Hmm.
and how we support them and the resources that we give them, the amount and the intensity and the intention that we put into helping them develop themselves is vital. And how much of that we do is going to dictate the outcome of future generations. It's so very important. And if you think about how prevalent arts were, in past generations, think about society and what that social structure looked like when arts was still accessible and taught. Even
Right.
till the time when I was in art school, it was an expected thing. Oh, you had art in every curriculum. You had art in every class, in every school day, I should say. You always have an art class. It was just
Hmm.
part of it. And we all just, that's what you did. Even in my family home, it was, you got to pick something to do. You can, whatever it is, you got to pick something that's creative to do, and you've got to follow it through. And, for me, it was, of course, painting and photos, but it was also kind of singing and music. Those are the things that I used to develop who I ended up becoming. And not to say that everyone needs to be an artist, but I do think that the ability to access it should be there if you do want it. It's really frightening to think of today's world, because there's so much good going on. There really is. But
Yeah.
sometimes the bad kind of takes the lead and becomes what we know and feel and vibrate regularly, because there's just so much of it. And maybe there's not a balance in seeing the good. But, it's a scary time out there. And I think right now it's most vital that we find healthy ways to healthily distract our young ones in a positive way, positive reinforce their ability to create and to process thinking and to critical thinking.
I completely agree. Art is therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It gets you out of your, like you said, the day to day mundane, the distractions, the negative, from everything that we're having to deal with.
Right.
And we're getting to actually be one with ourself. So we're taking that mental component that we're struggling with and just releasing it through something that can be creative. And it's something that all of us do. And I really love this conversation. For me, it was always singing when I was growing up. That was my escape. Like,
Mm.
I would sing. I sing everywhere. It doesn't matter. I sing in
You
the
do.
shower. I sing in the car. I
Yes,
sing
you
at my
do.
desk. Like, it doesn't matter. If I hear a song in my head, I instantly go to it. If I'm having a conversation and somebody says a word and it makes me think of a song, I just continue singing the song and right out loud, and I don't even care.
You go into your mental library.
I go
You're
into
like
my
a
mental
song.
library, and it's just it has to happen,
Yep.
because one, I need to let it out. Two, it changes the vibe in the room. And we all need to feel comfortable, and we need to feel safe, and we need to be able to be expressive. And that's really where art shines, is when you actually have that. And so I love what you guys are doing. I think this is a fantastic and beautiful way to leave it to our youth, because I know that there has been cuts from the state
Oh, yeah.
specifically that we're currently, navigating right now for the arts funding. I look at it and go, yeah, I don't want to walk through a building and then have it bare walls and there's no art on the wall. But that's what it could end up being without having people really care about putting money towards the art or putting advocacy towards saving the arts.
Well, it's funny. I just as you're saying that, it popped into my head that, what's worse is not having access to the art, so there's no art, or not caring enough to even look at the art that's already there.
I think it's a combination of
You
both,
know,
but yeah, that's a good question
like what
too.
is it in both those scenarios, if you're thinking about it from a service-based place, you know, these are both areas of demand where we do need to educate and create a lot of awareness around the arts, which is, right back, circling back to what you just said about advocacy. Advocacy ties hand in hand into education and awareness.
Right.
So, how important is that for us to have? I think it's significantly important for us to have. Advocacy for the arts is I don't know that it's an organized movement, to date, and I could be wrong about that. So, but I don't know that it's an organized enough of a movement within our art sector that we've had any impact where that's concerned. But we can continue to share a message as individual little systems as part of a bigger ecosystem
Yeah.
of nonprofits and arts funding and et cetera. We can share it from the grantees or the artist perspective is, we need the money to create this, help support us, bring our visions to life. And then we look at it from the funding perspective is, well, we need to help them do this.
Mm-hmm.
So, help us tie into this little ecosystem and let's all become a community and let's all collaborate actively so that we have this amazing result and we have this tangible thing that everyone can enjoy and everyone can have a moment with. And, you becoming internal or external with it. And it's an amazing, amazing connection to have. And it's amazing in how great and expansive its potential is. So I think for all those reasons, we need to do more work. And I think we all know that. I will say that from the time that I got back to Broward and started working in the arts sector to today, I've seen through the work of several of the arts and culture organizations and just other nonprofit organizations, and through the work of the cultural division with Phil Dunlap. He's really making moves, and talk about a rainmaker. Like he's really moved it forward, and he's as an artist himself, which is happens to be my walk as well. I'm an artist too, and I'm coming at it from his same perspective. He is the need for this is cemented within him. Having that art expertise with the business expertise is just like a home win.
I know a lot of artists, they're not business mindset.
Right.
They're passionate mindset about what they're creating and what they're giving to the world. And it's so beautiful, but they also need a little bit of help.
Well, they need help. There's certain, I think, it's funny. I was thinking earlier today of, how I got to where I got to. And I started as a photographer through education, through practice, through profession, and continued that way for a long time before I transitioned into business, still specifically in under the arts umbrella, but business nonetheless. And I was always surprised, really pleasantly surprised at how your brain has to kind of take on those same patterns to figure things out, and it's, in photography specifically, you're working with a combination, a lighting ratio to create an effect, right? It's an aperture and it's a shutter speed. And just tiny movements and those increments can change everything. And when you have something in mind that you're working to create and you're working in a film environment, which is how I started, and you have this idea and you're working through these different challenges and you're working through these formulas and how do you do this and how do you, so it's a process. It's a beginning, it's a middle, and it's an end for it. And it helps you create a process within your brain that helps you see patterns of things, which patterns, being able to see patterns then equals, being able to create strategy.
And it creates relatability. Because, I'm going to take it to the storytelling route that we have to do. Like every story has a big beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
And it's about that curve. It's about that, here's the challenge and here's the hero that's making it happen. And here's the beautiful outcome that finally happened. And when you actually are building that narrative to actually tell someone's story, it is not as simple as just clicking a button. I'm done recording. There's so much strategy to it.
There is.
There's so much science behind it, because we watch movies all the time, and movies are art. Like those are art at big levels. And we get so pulled in. Sometimes our heart is racing if it's an action movie, or if it's a drama and you're feeling the pain of a mother that just lost their child. All of these emotions were written down ahead of time before they even started filming. They didn't pull out the camera and go, okay, we're just going to try capturing this and see what happens.
Yeah.
Like there's so much more that goes into it, and it takes a village of people. Like if you watch those credits at the end of the movies, there's 1,000 names on there. It's not just 2 people. Like there's a ton of people really helping to make this something that's going to be memorable for you. when we are trying to do that, even as Visuals by Momo, we're looking at your story and going, how do you want this portrayed? What emotion are you trying to give to the person that you want to see this the most?
Mm-hmm.
And that is not easy. That is a challenging topic to talk about and really pull in, because a lot of people, everybody has a different vision. And so the person that we're working with has one vision. Momo has a different vision when he's behind the camera. And then other people are kind of, talking about, oh, what do we do this? Why don't we add this or we change this question? There's so many other pieces.
And other people have no vision.
And other people have no vision.
Right.
But when you put it together and when the
Mm-hmm.
final product is there and it actually hits the home run, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it can literally change the world. Like, it literally opens up a door, whatever that door is. And honestly, it only has to affect one person for it to be absolutely meaningful, because that one person could literally be the next leader that changes the entire world.
We're builders. We're creators. I think that's what, even if you think about ancient times, with the hunter gatherers, like we're constantly having to create and put things together and make things happen.
Like, the first thing that popped in my head was the Renaissance. It was
Mm-hmm.
filled with new artists. It was filled with this like massive time to like create and do something
Right.
new. That art is still
It's not gone
loved.
anywhere. Right.
It's still being seen. Like, it's not moved.
It's art.
It's art, and it's still being here.
Right.
Think about all of the buildings that you're like, oh gosh, that's gorgeous being put up. That's an artist that did that.
Mm-hmm.
They had an idea, they wrote it down, they made a blueprint, they worked with everyone else to make it happen.
That was somebody's vision. It was
Right.
that existed within within the capacity of someone's being, and then it just, here it is.
Correct.
And that's what I'm saying. That's the most, to me, it's still, I'm been in this game for almost 30 years, and it still moves me to tears most of the time. Most of the time it really does, just to be able to share something so sacred and so intimate,
Ooh,
with the
love
world.
that you use that word, sacred.
I was going to use that word.
Oh, that
It's like, I didn't use journey, so I use sacred.
But it's true.
Right.
Like, if you really think deep down, like, the work that you're doing in the world, the art that you're putting into it, whatever that type of art is, it's sacred to you.
It's so sacred, and it's so it's almost like it's like the Holy Trinity. If you think about it, it's your personal Holy Trinity. It's that sacred connection that means everything, and you're putting yourself out there, and that could be painful. It just doesn't, it's painful. There's never, and it's funny how we don't ever want to be hyper fixated on what others think of things, because it takes a moment to really understand how to manage
Right.
judgment and criticism, and whether it be the gracious kind or the not so gracious kind. It's still, it's walking around naked.
You're vulnerable.
And you're vulnerable. It's not easy being vulnerable these days, and it's really not easy to put yourself out there. So I look at these artists who we're surrounded by and who I'm so grateful to know,
Mm-hmm.
and I watch them put themselves out there over and over and over again, and it's motivating. It's motivating. It's what keeps me there. It's what keeps me showing up. It's these tender souls, not so tender sometimes, but some of the majority, it's just, you want to do all that you can possibly do to help them see themselves for who they are, if they haven't. And if they have, then help others see them just as much. It's a nurturing of sorts. And that's, I think, is part of Fab's movement that I tied into so wholeheartedly was, it's really our mission is to sustain, support, and to nurture the arts, and to nurture the artists. And although we'll have to do that incrementally over time, because
Right.
we're in growing stages, to be able to to have that kind of impact where you're sharing it more expansively. Those are our core values as an organization.
And I think that's kind of the way that you said that. It's the true essence of why all nonprofits start.
Mm-hmm.
You want to build something better for the community. And in this case, it's for artists to make sure that's still here for future generations. So important. Can you talk a little bit of some of the collaborations that you've experienced so far through FAB?
FAB is a smaller organization. It's smaller, but we actively collaborate with all kinds of folks across any kind of grid that you can think of. Specifically, we collaborate with our grantees, the folks who receive grants from us. They are able to, we're able to kind of give them some kind of support there to help some audience development, of course, through grant funding and et cetera. And then there are other types of collaborations that we have through partnerships when we're building out initiatives. We recognize that we are active in collaboration. We're always looking for folks who are wanting to tie into what we're doing and hopefully finding some areas of mutual benefit there
Hmm.
for us to kind of, to land in together. We're always just open to it. And I think that's really important. No matter what it is, it's not, there's no kind of, I know more than you do. It's more like, I know this. What do you know? Let's share.
Those words are perfect because honestly, that is the thing.
Right.
If we're always just one focused and like, this is the one thing I know and this is the way I'm going to roll, you have your blinders on.
You do.
Like, you can't see your blind spots. But if you open it up and you're like, hey, what do you see? Like, how do you contribute? What do you see? What do you contribute? Now you've opened it up to multiple conversations with other people, and that collaboration intensifies and multiplies
Hmm.
the effect. So it can do so much more.
Yeah, you're just expanding, growing out your field of knowledge. Like, why wouldn't you want to share all the things that you know and find different avenues to build on together? Ask people things that you don't know. And sometimes they'll help and sometimes they won't, and that's okay.
Hmm.
But at the very least, get into a good practice of connecting with folks because that's what it comes out of. You connect on one snippet of mutual kind of understanding and it kind of grows from there. And that's really important, to build relationships with people and connect and get to know other folks in your community, even if they don't seem like they align with what your goals or values are as an organization.
Do you have any actual stories of collaboration that you can share?
A couple years ago, we launched a campaign. We launched a campaign because we wanted to expand the programming that we've got in place, but we wanted to also build new programming and new initiatives and serve our communities in different ways. We wanted to kind of fit in different groups that we weren't able to fund based on our funding requirements with our legacy grant program. And we wanted to perhaps provide more services, through the use of this campaign funding. One of the key focus areas of lack in funding and lack of accessibility was public art programming and placemaking. So it came up a lot. We interviewed a lot of folks nationally and locally, and we said to all of them, what's missing as part of your community, and kind of, and I'm going about this in a roundabout way, but we said this to this group of folks and they surveyed and did all the right things that you're supposed to do to really come back with factual data on what we should potentially fund and maybe what other folks should consider funding if they're thinking about, leaning into expanding the arts landscape.
Yep.
We decided that we would take some of this money and put it into a public art program. And the public art program would answer the call to education about art potentially. If you see something that's out in the community day after day after day, you're going to start to ask questions. You're going to start to become curious. What is this? Why is this up here? Who did this? What is this artist about? I'd never seen anything like this before. And immediately, because we knew we had, restrictions in some areas, we thought, let's try, projection mapping. And I had seen the great work of Mad Arts, Mad Labs, Mad Art Museum. They are co-produced, well, they're the producers of all the technology and the artists and all that stuff in Ignite Broward. And I just was so wowed by it. And I said, that's the way to go on this. I think that we can really make something happen here. I did, a little online searching and found Mark Aptekin, who is the CEO and founder of Mad Arts, on LinkedIn. I sent him a message and I was like, hey, listen, I got this thing going on. Can we set up a time to talk? And he was super open and receptive to talking. And the museum is something that he acquired, not too long ago, and has been working really diligently on, building and growing and ensuring that all types of artists are included and that there's a nice variety of escape to go to locally. So he does a really good job at that. And, we brought them in and said, this is what we're doing. What do you think? First and foremost, what do you think? This is something that we can do. Is this something that you'd be interested in potentially doing with us?
Right.
And we started the conversation a year and a half ago. So to tell you how long and we just launched this in January of 2025. So it'll tell you how long it took us to really develop the idea for the program. Secondly, then figure out a way to convince our board to agree to do it, because this is so outside of their comfort zone,
Okay.
and as a visual artist myself, it put me in a space of like, I'm a visual artist, and what are we doing? Are we doing enough for the visual artists? We need to do something more. So I was really committed to making this happen. So I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into getting this program, along with a few other folks on my board, kind of putting this program together and getting a proposal together and running it through. And Mark and his team, and Sophia, who's the curator, played real active roles in helping us in the development of this. They partnered with us. They partnered with us to create, to produce the actual visuals and everything, and to bring us the artists. But more so, they believed in what we were doing and really wanted to help support us the whole step of the way. Like, who does that in business? So,
yeah,
so it became a partnership. It became a collaboration. It became a friendship. It became so much more. And we really are happy with the result of it. We were able to do, through these meetings and through these collaborations, we were able to not only just provide funding for a public art program and collaborate with a major, like a cultural icon like the Parker and Broward Center, because they're providing us their wall space, the west facing wall on Federal. They provided us the space to create this piece on. So we brought in several different factors and kind of made it work, and we all planted seeds, and really, Mark had a lot of ideas. I brought in ideas. Sophia did. Everybody kind of worked together. My committee members on my board did also. And it was nice to have that kind of synergy with folks who kind of wanted the same thing.
That's awesome.
And we all worked together to get there. It wasn't easy, because we're whole different walks of our organizations are positioned quite differently,
Yeah.
And I think we found such synergy within our desire to want to, support artists and
Right.
put art in the community, that drove us and kind of took away any of the other barriers that you think that would create obstacles. And hopefully we'll continue to do this and to expand it and continue to create really impactful messaging about how important it is to be an art-centric community.
We need more arts in
People
the
need to
Broward.
care about it a little bit more.
Yeah, they need to see it. They need to feel it. They need to experience it.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I wanted to just recap a little bit on, specifically in this amazing story, was don't be afraid to reach out. Because if you never would have reached out on LinkedIn,
no, you just got to go for it.
What did this even happen? You have to just go for it. Whether the answer is going to be no or,
a lot of times it is no, by the way. A lot of times you get, I get no's all the time. I'm like, your no is somebody else's yes. You just got to keep it moving.
100%. Like, your story, your vision, your mission, whatever you're trying to position it, if it falls in line with they could say no to 1,000 people before you, but then the way that you was like, I love that. Yes, let's figure it out. That's all it takes. But if you don't actually reach out, you don't actually say, hey, are you open to this conversation? Let's sit down and have that meeting. You've already shut the door for yourself. For a lot of grassroots nonprofits out there, which I just have recent stats, there's 8,000 nonprofits in Broward that are grassroots. That's a lot. 10,000 in total, but 8,000. The work that you're trying to do and the passion you're delivering to the community and bringing them to light, ask for help.
Absolutely, because these are for pilot programs, just in business, just generally, it's really a modest investment, while you're testing these things. But I will say that, again, through that collective desire to want to do something substantial to support artists in our community came opportunities for 2 artists to launch their pieces, who will have visibility on a major road for 2 months at a time,
Awesome.
and they get to have, I mean, how amazing is that? I think back to, I still consider myself an artist and I still shoot and exhibit occasionally. I think back to the days when it's all that I did, and that would have been like a home run for me, a dream come true, like bucket list. Like that would have been really great for me. And I think through that enthusiasm, live through their experiences. And I can only imagine. So it makes me so proud to think that not only did we provide this opportunity for them, because it really is about that exposure. I mean, there's no amount of money that can add up to possibility and the possibility of who will see you, who you'll meet, what will happen, if not today, then 10 years from now. But just to have that, I think is super special. And then, Mad Art Museum through Mark and Sophia, they developed a workshop as part of this Fab Goes Public project. And the workshop was hosted by Mad Arts artist in residency, Jaime Reyes, who's a fantastic artist, period. And also Miguel Gonzalez, who's one of the artists who's featured in our program, and Rosanna Callis. So they invited 12 artists who were transitioning or trying to learn how to use this technology, and really gave them hands-on experience and hands-on resources the day of and for the workshop, and gave them that education. And they did it as part of this program. And I think that's huge, just to be able to have some kind of programming like that exists through the hands of an actual producer of those kinds of things. Because you can go to school and take a class on digital art, but you're not going to really experience it the way that you would through the lens of, like an agency like Mad Labs or Mad Arts, because they've got that there.
Right.
I've educated myself in training and et cetera for photography and other things, but the experience that I really took with me and was able to build on was the one that I found working hands-on. The days that you're working, the days that you're messing up, the days that you're, being successful, and those days that you work in a dark photo studio for 12 to 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. Those are those kinds of moments. But to have all of these things and provide these 2 people such, a resource for them, and then, whatever maybe will be, I think it was really important. It's really satisfying and meaningful. Because I think, as a nonprofit person, it's meaningful to do this kind of work.
And I see it. Like, I see it coming through what you do day in, day out.
Thank you.
You're building something here. You're making a difference in the community. And whether that's one person at a time or whether that's a neighborhood at a time, it's all making an impact. That's what we need. We need just to continue that.
Well, I appreciate that recognition. Thank you.
Yeah. So
it's a wonderful thing.
It is.
Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad for a day's work.
So that actually brings us to our final question. But before I ask that question, how do people get in touch with you? Through
telepathic connection.
Yes. Talk to me.
Just talk to me in your sleep. Probably. So you can get connected with me by, you can email me, or you can look us up online, fundingartsbroward.org. If you have any questions about the agency itself or what kind of programs we fund or events that we've got coming up. We do have a nice little membership. Folks can join that if they want to be active in a social environment while still supporting a grant pool annually. Or the local telephone number, 954-353-7673. That's the FAB office number. So
perfect.
Email is, wow, I feel so vulnerable right now. It's my name, Kat Sierra at fundingartsbroward.org.
All right.
Yeah.
So Kat Sierra at Funding Arts Broward and fundingartsbroward.org.
Perfect.
Awesome.
It's a little Benny.
All right. So the final question I ask everybody that comes on our show,
yes.
What is the legacy that you want to leave for future generations?
Oh, wow. Well, you could have prepped me for that one. You could have prepared me by email for that. I think, well, you know what? I think ultimately, if I had a legacy to leave, it would be to have a completely arts-centric environment and community, and that each person would have access to either learning the arts or seeing the arts or enjoying the arts. And I think that ultimately a well-sustained arts ecosystem.
Wow.
I think that's
the
ultimately
legacy when you want to leave. Awesome. I love the word ecosystem.
That's what it is.
Because then it's never going to die.
Well, and I think that's a really important piece that you just mentioned, that it's not going to die.
Yeah.
It's only got one direction to go in, and that's up or out or what have you, but it's going to continue no matter what, so I think it's important to remember that all communities need good opportunities for artists to have professional development, because they need that sometimes, especially when you're merging technology with art. I think it's important to have, a lot of access for artists to special residency programs, to public spaces at considerably discounted rates, at opportunities for loaning and grant funding that have less restrictions around them. And I think just overall more buy-in, just a lot more buy-in. So, and I think we'll get there. I do. I really do. And I think we're on a road to get there. I think in 5 years, our arts landscape will look slightly different than it looks now.
Today, yeah.
And I think, hopefully what we're trying to do now is really develop philanthropy now through, between 30 and 50. I think it's really important to cultivate the next generation of philanthropists, because we need that support.
And you're opening those doors. And I love the different programs and the initiatives that you have right now to make that happen.
Thank you.
So follow Fab wherever you're at and see what they're doing next. Come to an event. So Kat, thank you so much for coming on Visual Eyes.
I did. This was actually, I forgot that we were on camera. So we're gonna have to look at those tapes and edit them together.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh my goodness. Thank you
again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Visual Eyes. We hope that the inspiration and practical insights can help you foster stronger connections and meaningful change. Don't forget to subscribe, share the episode, and leave us a review. To learn more about Visuals by Momo and how we support collaboration and storytelling, visit visualsbymomo.com. A huge thank you to everyone out there listening. Until next time, remember, collaboration fuels change, and your connections can inspire the world.